I think that that is crazy. you know, I don't know why a country with a population less than 3 million people needs an executive, a cabinet so large.
That's the view of noted political analyst Germaine Barrett on the 18 ministers and 13 state ministers appointed by the Dr. Andrew Holness led administration. Hi, Germaine. A pleasure to have you on the Trailblazers. Your first time here on this platform. Hopefully, it's not your last.
Thank you very much, Tamara. And yes, I hope it is not my last. Thank you for having me. And hello to your viewers.
Thank you so much. And I mean, I saw you so much throughout the election period, of course, as a noted analyst. And so it's really good to get your perspective. Election is done and gone. We had, of course, well, it's now Sunday, so earlier in the week, we had the swearing in of Prime Minister Andrew Holness, Dr. Andrew Holness, for a third term. And new cabinet, state ministers, we have quite a bit to unravel. All right, so first things first, let's start off with the PM inaugural speech. What did you make of it?
I think it was a fine speech. I think it was a speech that was needed at a time in the aftermath of a rambunctious and a chaotic campaign period, a campaign period that left many bruised and battered. It was the speech that was, first of all, a unifying speech. The Prime Minister clearly recognized that he was not just the Prime Minister of the JLP, but the Prime Minister of all Jamaicans, and that the challenges ahead would require a unified sort of focus and attention to those difficulties. And that resonated powerfully in his speech. It was encapsulated in his overture to the opposition leader, inviting the opposition leader to join him in really achieving some progress on constitutional reform, inviting the opposition leader as well to cooperate and collaborate with the government to tend to address social violence. Yes, those are powerful statements of unity. And then, of course, he spoke candidly and straightforwardly about the big issues, his big vision for Jamaica's development. It reflected a sort of resonance from his economic statement a few months ago, where he spoke about pivoting to inclusive growth. You would know, Tamara, that Jamaica has achieved significant progress in the macroeconomic realm. Yes, debt to GDP ratio, net international reserves, all of these things have been going very, very well. But people right across the society are concerned and are complaining that they're not feeling it. And macroeconomic indicator can't yam, the economy can't yam. And so that he is patently aware of, and certainly spoke to things like education, things like infrastructural development, and the logistic hub, and so forth.
Indeed, and you hit the nail on a number of the points there, because while he was speaking, I was making notes throughout, and looking down in terms of some of the major pointers that he mentioned, as you spoke about the economy, the logistics hub there, constitutional reform to make Jamaica a republic, education. So you definitely hit the nail on the head. There's some, though, I've seen other perspectives where when he said to the opposition leader, the time has come, and the audience, they burst out in laughter.
Time has come.
Some saw it as sort of throwing shade at the opposition leader at a time when he was calling for unity. What do you make of that?
Clearly, Tamara, people will be of different opinions on that, and there is still the legacy and the carryover of the hurts and the pains and the angst coming out of the elections and the campaign period. But I think it was a pretty nice quip. You know what, a speech that is just laced with hardcore facts and so forth. You want to sort of excite and to get people talking. You want, as a prime minister delivering an inaugural address, to say something that will captivate people who are sort of attentive to short quips. And so I think that's what that was about. I don't think the opposition will take any real offense to it. You will find people who are intent on making an issue where none exist, I think. But to say time has come, to choose Jamaica,
Yes.
fundamentally, irrespective of your political stripes. If you're really honest about it, it's nothing to write home about.
Okay. So third term, of course, that's a big deal. Big deal for the Prime Minister, big deal for the JLP, and big deal for Jamaica because, of course, he has laid out the major things that he wants to achieve. The opposition has said that they will be holding him accountable. And of course, it's not a 49-14 situation this time around, it's a 35-28.
Yes.
So what does Dr. Andrew Holness need to do to make sure that, as you rightly mentioned, the people take him even more seriously? The macroeconomic levels are being felt on the ground. And the truth is, there's a certain, I won't call their name, but there's a certain newspaper that they've been bringing a cartoon of late, and every time when you see the cartoon, you see the ghost of Andrew Holness's integrity commission issues on his back. So even those, what are your thoughts on that as he starts this third term?
Well, I mean, we have non-opposition with 28 seats in the House of Representatives. It is certainly no 2020 kind of scenario. And one will anticipate that with people like, of course, the opposition leader himself, Mark Golding, people like Peter Bunting, Damian Crawford, the General Secretary, Dr. Campbell, in the House of Representatives, they are going to hold the government's feet to fire. And that's what an opposition should be. Yes, an opposition is, of course, a government in waiting. But I'm also encouraged by sentiments from Dr. Dayton Campbell after the first sitting of the Parliament, where he said that the opposition is not about being obstructionist. Yes, the opposition is about working together with the government on issues in areas where there is mutual consensus, where there's bipartisan support to really push the country's development forward. But of course, on issues on which the opposition disagrees, I expect them to be robust, to be vigorous, and to challenge the government. Is it Tamara? That is healthy, and that's what a democracy is about. A lot of Jamaicans get upset and get frustrated at what they consider to be the slow pace of legislation and the cuss out and the confusion in the parliament. And I personally don't like it, but I want a parliament and an opposition that holds government accountable. So the legislation and the policies of the government are tested rigorously, right? That is what I'm most excited about.
Cabinet now, we have 18 ministers that were sworn in earlier this week. Then on Friday, 13 state ministers.
Yes.
Even only 5 backbenchers.
Yes.
What do you make of this?
I think that is crazy. I don't know why a country with a population less than 3 million people needs an executive, a cabinet so large. It becomes a bureaucratic nightmare for the prime minister to oversee such a large administration. And, it is going to be problematic. I also don't think that it is the best approach for the prime minister to have sort of used the executive powers that he has to pursue the kinds of sort of transitioning, as he has spoken about, in his own party, where you see, for example, he has appointed a number of new additions to the cabinet at the level of the state minister, with the idea that they are now being groomed ultimately to take over, while some of the elder statesmen and women would have sort of indicated that they're on the departing lounge. So that to me is just poor. I think a conversation needs to be had nationally about the need for us to enshrine the ministries, as happens, for example, in the United States, where you have various departments that are firmly established, with, of course, some leeway for a prime minister to establish new ministries, but not so sort of whimsically. You find, Tamara, that the prime minister, and whichever the prime minister is, whenever you have an election, you have ministers changing and so forth, there are costs that people don't really appreciate. Costs as small as, for example, the cost to print letterheads and to change signs and to change labels and all these kinds of things, and the disruptions that causes is a bit concerning. I'm also wanting to get some further clarity on what the constitutional reform agenda is going to look like going forward, because you notice that that ministry has been abolished. Minister Malahoo Fort no longer is a minister of government. That has now been folded into the Ministry of Justice. Is it a deprioritization of that ministry? I've long held the view that that ministry need to be a standalone ministry, but one waits to see what then is going to be the new thrust towards constitutional reform. And then the third and final point I'll make is this. Still on constitutional reform, which is hugely impactful and important to me, is, I'm excited to see the extent to which the Prime Minister follows through on his olive branch sort of, waving the white flag stance that he articulated in his inaugural speech. Yes. Are we going to be seeing more Vale Royal talks? Are we going to be seeing more opportunities for the Prime Minister and the leader of the opposition to lock themselves away in a room and hammer things out in the national interest?
Indeed, Germaine. And you actually hit the nail on the head again.
Yes.
In terms of some of the points, some of the questions I was about to actually ask. But before we because I want to touch a bit more on Marlene Malahoo Fort's absence from the cabinet. But in terms of, as you mentioned, the fact that the 18 and then the 13 junior ministers, state ministers, it's also going to be quite a hefty bill to pay all of them.
Absolutely. $2 billion, I think, is the figure per year, which is a massive. You recall, Tamara and the viewers, that the political executive, particularly, in fact, all politicians, were afforded under Dr. Nigel Clarke's stewardship of the finance ministry a hefty pay increase that was hugely controversial. But that is now going to make the bill incredibly expensive, and I don't know. I've not heard a convincing argument as yet as to why that is the case, and I think the Prime Minister needs to be challenged to present to the nation why it is that he finds it necessary to have so large an executive bureaucracy.
So then you would have preferred, based on what you previously stated in terms of the fact that some of the elder statesmen have indicated they're in the departure lounge, you would have preferred then for him to keep a tighter cabinet and bring in perhaps some of those fresher faces within the cabinet itself, as opposed to making them state ministers. Is that what you're saying?
That is exactly what I'm saying. Let me give you one example. I'm concerned about the Ministry of Industry, Investment and Commerce, being led by Orbin Hill, a fine gentleman, but I don't know that we're getting enough out of that ministry to justify its very existence. I know JAMPRO is one of the agencies in that ministry, and when you look at the data, JAMPRO is not doing anywhere near enough, given Jamaica's ever-widening trade balance and the deficit in terms of the amount we import, massively greater than that which we export. Yes, so you can't have a ministry that over its existence has not been doing enough to sort of close the gap in terms of that deficit. Yes. And in my mind, if I were the Prime Minister, I would be considering sort of abolishing that ministry and placing the agencies that are important under other ministries, so as to ensure again that you're getting greater leverage and greater effectiveness in terms of the ministries there. The function rather of that ministry. It's an important function, but I don't know that the ministry needs to exist by itself to perform that function. Some of the persons who have indicated that they're on the departure lounge, people like Darrell Vaz, people, a number of them have indicated, I think the Prime Minister should have possibly considered taking an opportunity. Okay, it's a new administration, it's a new term. Let us start new from now.
Yes. Also, before the cabinet actually was sworn in, the new cabinet was announced, I noticed there was an article where you actually had mentioned that you were not a fan of Minister Favour Williams returning to the Ministry of Finance.
Thanks for the opportunity to clarify that, Tamar, because I've been pilfered on social media about that. Let me be clear, listeners, viewers. I don't have any personal gripe regarding Favour Williams. Favour Williams is greatly admired by myself. She is eminently qualified, possibly one of our most qualified finance ministers. That is clear. I am, though, concerned that in a democracy, perceptions matter, and perceptions oftentimes equate to reality. Coming off the backdrop of Dr. Nigel Clark, who was hugely popular, who communicated so very clearly and so very confidently when it is that his ministry or his policies were challenged by the opposition. You recall the budget debate, for example. I don't know that I don't have the records, but I don't know that there's any time in Jamaica's history where so many persons have been tuned into the budget debate to see what gimmickry, what entertainment, and what information Dr. Nigel Clark would have beautifully disseminated. Yes, so he has that capacity, and so it is in that context that I leveled the position of the view that, and maybe it was a kind of just thinking out loud, to be honest, that the Prime Minister ought to be considering at this point in time whether Favour Williams is the right fit for that position, given the fact that, unlike in the past where, the finance minister, former finance minister, Dr. Clark, was oftentimes challenged and being held accountable by a smaller opposition crew, now he's Favour Williams is going to find herself facing tremendous opposition from a dogged opposition, greater number, greater inequality of the persons there tasked with challenging her policies and her arrangements. So, there's a sense that she just is not vociferous enough, strong enough, bold enough to take them on. Now, I will conclude by saying this, Tamara. I would be happy to be proven wrong. I have no animosity against the goodly finance minister, right? Eminently qualified. I want for her to be proven, for me to be proven wrong, given the fact that the Prime Minister has her confidence evidently and has reappointed her in that very pivotal position.
Indeed, Germaine. So therefore, from your perspective, your opinion here, who do you think? Because I'm wondering if it's a case where he doesn't have enough people to pick from. Yes. And hence why, for example, he would, use her again. Because then who do you think would be another option?
Yes. So that's an interesting question. I don't have the precise answer. From where I stand, which is outside of the political fray, really, just like all Jamaicans. I was thinking that Matthew Samuda strikes me as being a good candidate. Now, Matthew Samuda does not have the repertoire of Favour Williams, yes, but we've had finance ministers in the past that were not, eminently qualified in finance or in economics, yes. And so I think Matthew Samuda has distinguished himself as being sharp, as being articulate, as being sort of, ready to learn and quick-witted. I see his performances in the Senate. I'm ever so often impressed. And I think that he would be comparable potentially with a Dr. Nigel Clark. And then, of course, a minister is not needed to be the architect of all ideas. The minister has copious numbers of advisors and technocrats to advise them, and that would remain the same. The bureaucracy within the ministry wouldn't have changed. And so I think that the public face now would be improved were we to be provided with a minister such as Matthew Samuda. So again, it could be in the Prime Minister's estimation that, yes, the Prime Minister knows more about Matthew than I do. The Prime Minister has strategic responsibilities that he considers to be more in line with what it is that Matthew Samuda can provide. As you know, Matthew Samuda has in fact been appointed to the new Ministry of Water, Climate Change, the Environment. One way to see, but I just thought that he would have been a good fit there.
Okay. And back to Marlene Malahoo Ford, of course, it was quite noticeable, her absence. And of course, we know that her ministry is now joined with the Ministry of Justice under Delroy Chuck. What do you think? Obviously, when the news came out, people speculating online as to why she's no longer a part of the cabinet, but your thoughts?
So I don't want to posit a reason because I would simply be, casting aspirations and suppositions and so forth. And I'm not sure that there's any value in that. The Prime Minister and she probably knows what the reason is. I think it's a clear indication, though, that the Prime Minister is, relatively speaking, not satisfied with what would have transpired with respect to her stewardship or management of that important role, Minister of Legal and Constitutional Affairs. Yes. When the ministers were announced, I thought, well, it could very well be, and I did opine at some other point in media that I think there should be the merger. I did suggest that Malahoo Ford should be made Minister of Justice and Constitutional Affairs, and that and then Tova Hamilton should be sort of invited to that ministry to kind of oversee specifically the constitutional affairs portfolio. But again, Prime Minister has seen it differently. It's his prerogative so to do. So I don't know. I don't know. The short answer is I don't know why you would have chosen not to reappoint her. Another position could have, in my estimation, been that of Speaker of the House of Representatives. But what has happened there? The Prime Minister's wife, Juliet Holness, has attained that high office again.
And I was about to touch on that because, of course, the opposition, even before the official announcement, had declared that they were against her being appointed as Speaker of the House again. And they didn't take into consideration the opposition's thoughts on the matter.
Yes. Right. So, Dalrymple and Mrs. Holness were announced in a press release by the opposition that these two individuals would not achieve their support if they were to be vying for the Speaker of the House. And so we see that I think it's probably unprecedented, the fact that not one member of the opposition cast a vote in support of her ascension to the speakership. That is concerning, and you would have appreciated just from the optics of it, the opposition was stone-faced. She seemed a little uncomfortable with the fact that she could not garner at least one vote from that side of the House. It was very, very improper, I think. The fact that she was nominated and seconded by members of the government side. The tradition, the convention is that the government nominates, the opposition seconds. Again, look at what would have happened in the Senate with respect to its president, yes? Tom Tavares Finson, right? A government member in the Senate proposed that he becomes Senate president, and of course, somebody on the opposition seconded, and it was unanimous in terms of the support. That's what you kind of want, yes? And so I think the calculation by the Prime Minister may have been wrong. I think in as much as the Prime Minister is now faced with such a strong mandate to unify and to be bipartisan, I don't think that it was necessary that the sacrifices there, I think, are unwarranted. There are many other qualified persons. Marlene Malahoo Ford is one, and you could also consider the Ed Bartlett. Ed Bartlett would have been a good gentleman for that position as well. I don't know why the Prime Minister deems it necessary to take that political risk at this time.
And of course, during the previous administration, there were, of course, angst and arguments because of that, and even with the whole Integrity Commission issues and so forth. So I think he could possibly, well, you could tell me, you're the analyst, that he's setting up himself for problems.
Yes, one could argue that this is a little exaggeratory, but I think it falls within that general tone. This is an act of war. This is an act of war. It's a declaration that we will have our way and we will have our way, and the kind of concern by the opposition will be disregarded when it is that we intend on having our way. And that's not how governments work. Listen. The Andrew Holness would have won the election by 7 seats, 35 to 28. That's significant. The number of Jamaicans who would have stood in support of the opposition, yes? And so I think it would have set the right tone at the start of the new parliamentary year, or a period rather, to say, all right, we'll listen to you, and we'll find a candidate that has bipartisan support. Yeah, I'm actually happy though. I'm happy because the opposition could have taken more vigorous steps. The opposition could have outrightly voted against her. The opposition could have nominated their own candidate. Yes, those would have been even more egregious in terms of its stance in opposition to what the government is doing. But I think they took the safest position, but which is to say, we will not support. We'll just be silent. We'll abstain.
Yes, and Montague and Wheatley, Andrew Wheatley, of course, he had faced the whole Petrojam scandal. A lot of people, their eyes, they were like, he's back. So your thoughts on that?
So, a few points. First of all, I welcome the change in the name and focus of the ministry, now called Ministry of Economic Growth and Infrastructure Development. I think that's sensible. I mean, we've achieved such huge progress in terms of job, giving Jamaican jobs and so forth. And so that is appropriate. Albeit more needs to be done in terms of improving the earnings that people are obtaining from those jobs. Now, I wonder, why is it necessary for us to have a Ministry of Local Government and Community Development, I think it's called.
Yes.
And then have Bobby Montague essentially being a minister, which sounds like his responsibility may represent a significant overlap with that ministry, right? I don't think that that's necessary. I also don't think that Wheatley, with his focus on science and technology, is necessary, given the fact that we have a ministry led by Darren Vaz that has specific responsibility for science and technology and energy and all that kind of thing, right?
And you also have Audrey dealing with digital matters.
You have the Audrey dealing with digital matters. So I think there's too much fragmenting and fragmentation, and there's a huge amount of opportunity for consolidation for the Prime Minister to set a platform of indicating to the Jamaican people that he understands the need for a sleek, a mean, a sort of a focused attention on the business of the country without the fragmentation. Because one of the things that you must understand, Tamara, is that for every ministry that is established, as the bureaucracy expands, it's going to be more difficult to coordinate all of these things. And people are going to be falling over each other. Right? The local government is now going to be trying to figure out, okay, where does our responsibility end and the responsibility of Bobby Montague start? Those kinds of overlaps is going to be concerning, and that's one of the reasons why I think the Prime Minister saw it at the same time and urged the ministers rather, to cooperate and to collaborate and to engage in sort of interministerial collaboration, more so than everybody eking out a position for themselves.
Certainly. Quickly, I know we have a few more things to go through before we wrap up, Germaine. I don't know if you noticed, well, you would have, you're an analyst, political analyst, the whole debacle there with Everald Warmington walking out right after he was sworn in, not even shaking the Speaker of the House's hand. It actually made the news. And when they interviewed him, he said, stay tuned. Is there that big division at play as the media is making it out to be?
I mean, here's the thing. Even if it is that it was not done with malice, it is inappropriate. Protocols matter, standards matter. The Prime Minister, the Speaker of the House ought to have been acknowledged and due respect and regard given to them. It is the Prime Minister's prerogative to appoint whomever he wants within the House of Representatives and the Senate to ministerial positions and to positions within the cabinet. And so clearly the Prime Minister isn't confident enough, or the political calculation of the Prime Minister would have led him to say, well, you're not somebody in whom I have the greatest amount of confidence at this time. And that's okay. Yes, you're hurt, you're bruised. I'm sure Marlene Maluhu is not over the moon with excitement at this time. But again, the Prime Minister is the Prime Minister. Somebody has to do the job. And I think it also betrays a disrespect for the people of Jamaica. And as much as It is the Constitution of Jamaica that gives the Prime Minister, vests the Prime Minister with this authority. And so to be upset enough to publicly disrespect the Prime Minister and the Speaker of the House in that way is totally below the belt. And it's not unbecoming, unfortunately, of the gentleman about whom we speak, because he is renowned for that kind of mischief.
All right, quickly on the Senate. I mean, obviously on the JLP side, the government side, there were a bit of chatter there. There was a bit of chatter there with Keith Duncan, obviously from a major PNP family being, of course, we know of his work with, the economy and everything like that, but to be appointed to the Holness Senate is, it's quite the shocker in many circles. Your thoughts on it?
Not surprised. I'm not surprised at all. I mean, all you need to do is, as I have done over these years, listen to his commentary, right? Generally very much positive in terms of the government and complimentary of the government. And I would have heard whispers before that he was being courted. Recall a few months ago, news broke that he was being courted to join the Senate, and he came out and said, "Oh, no such thing, no such thing." But whenever you hear those kinds of allegations, them say, if something goes so, something nearly goes so, right? That almost goes that, and I think that is what we're seeing manifested here. So no surprises there. And he is a gentleman who has distinguished himself in terms of national service, heading EPOC and so forth. So you're going to be getting that quality of input into the Senate very much welcomed.
Okay. And on the opposition side, we see some new faces, some old faces, but we see some new faces, some younger
Yes.
as well. We have Cleveland
Yes.
and some other new faces as well. Your thoughts on their selection?
Well, Cleveland is an interesting one, and somebody who is I'm keenly focused on, because unbeknownst to many Jamaicans, Cleveland would have grown up under my tutelage as his debate coach. When
Oh,
he went,
really?
yes, at the University of Technology, and we did phenomenal work, and he achieved incomparable successes as a debater. And you'd have seen him having a hand in coaching the PNP debaters for the national leadership debate, and he did very well. The consensus amongst most Jamaicans is that the PNP won most, if not all, of the debates.
Yes.
And so forth. And he would have been given ever more senior responsibilities, I would say, with respect to him speaking out on behalf of the People's National Party and so forth. And so that is to be commended. And I think he's also to be looked on as being an exemplary person, given the fact that there is a huge concern in Jamaica right now with respect to young people being not at all caught up, interested in the politics of the country. He's young, and he's giving his very best to the values that he shares. And so I think he's to be commended. Of course, one will watch and see how he performs, and I expect nothing but the absolute best from him.
And I guess this is the perfect segue into JADE.
Yes.
Yes, of course. You being, of course, Germaine, they're the founder and executive director of the Jamaica Association for Debating and Empowerment, JADE.
Yes.
Cleveland, of course, would be a success story from JADE. And we wanted to use the rest of this interview for you to share some of the amazing work. I see you across the media, they're doing some big things.
Well, yes, we're doing hard work, hard and hopefully impactful work. But boy, I tell you, Tamar, we are barely scratching the surface in terms of what it is that we're trying to achieve. By the way, Cleveland as well was an officer of JADE, one of our more senior officers up until a few months ago. Right. So I just talk about one of the big things that are coming up. Well, before I do that, let me talk a bit about what JADE is and who we are. So JADE is an organization established about 11 years ago with a mandate to promulgate the discipline of debating, critical thinking, effective communication, broadly speaking. And then in the latter few years, we have taken on a mandate to focus on psychosocial intervention, because that is so desperately needed among our young people and among all Jamaicans. So what we do with that mandate, we work a lot with students in secondary level and tertiary level education, educational institutions. We are about to veer into the primary sector because we want sustainability. So we want to start them off from when they're young. And we go and we conduct workshops in these particular areas, debating, public speaking, communications at large. And then we ultimately get them to compete nationally in various competitions. We get them to travel overseas to compete in the international debate realm. And so that's a lot of what we do. Coming up in October, the second week of October, for the third year in a row, Jamaica will pause to commemorate National Debaters Week. And tomorrow it's going to be an exhausting but rewarding week. And so what we're doing, we're going to various corners of the island. We're conducting workshops. We're running debate competitions with students who will gather at these various locations. We're executing a National Debate Leadership Summit at the University of the West Indies. We are having a day of service where we get young people to connect with, other disadvantaged students in children's homes, and provide gift baskets, gift goodies, goodie bags, and so forth, and really help to nurture their own humanity. And then we conclude the week with an event we call the JADE Pepper Pot and Pageant, where we have a kaleidoscope of artistry in the form of music, dance, song, and drama. And of course, there's going to be interwoven with all of that a pageant to crown Mr. and Miss JADE.
Oh, nice.
Yes, it's a lot. It's a lot.
And so for people who want to get more information, where can they go?
Thank you. So we have a website. It's myjade.org. So that's www.myjade, that's myjade.org. We're also on socials, the major socials, X and Instagram and Facebook and TikTok. Our handle on all of these platforms is @JadeLimited. That's @JadeLimited. And we encourage Jamaicans to follow us, learn more about us, and see how it is that you too can get involved. I mean, I spoke earlier on a lot about the kind of work that we do with children, but we also work with the adult community. So we run the public sector debate competition in partnership with the Transformation Implementation Unit, a unit within the Ministry of Finance and the Public Sector. That's one of our proudest undertakings. We have the Jamaica Debate Academy and Open coming up in January as well, which is a massive undertaking where we take students from across the island and we take them through a debate camp, provide them with international caliber training, and get them to compete and hone and manifest excellence in communication. And we do a lot more over the year, each year.
Indeed, Germaine, indeed. And for those who want to reach out to you, is there an email address if they want to partner with you or anything like that?
Oh, we welcome that, because let me tell you something, Tamara, we don't have anywhere near enough money. It's a labor of love, and every single time I've achieved some impact in the life of one child or one adult, I think about the thousands of others who could benefit tremendously from this kind of contribution and input. So my email address is germaine@myjade.org. So I'll state it again and spell it. So it's GERMAINE@myjade.org. Send me an email. Let us talk. And the contribution doesn't have to be big, although we welcome big contributions as well. We welcome any contribution, even if it is that you want to come and help to volunteer. And so for that, there are many opportunities. When you go on your website, you'll see opportunities for you to sign on as a JADE Pioneer, which is kind of like a volunteer opportunity. You can become a member because we're a member association, and you can give back in whatever way while you develop yourself. So again, my email address, germaine@myjade.org.
Thank you so much, Germaine. I'll definitely put the details there in the caption on screen. So, I mean, we're definitely going to have to bring you back, because the Trailblazer platform is not just about current affairs. Actually, initially when we started, it was a lot more focusing on a lot of inspirational stories, because I'm big on that. And I definitely want to bring you back at another time to talk about your own personal story of being a trailblazer. You know, you're doing amazing things.
Would welcome that opportunity, Tamara. And just to give your viewers a sneak peek, You see, these glasses is not just for fashion. I'm blind.
Yeah.
Blind, I'm disabled, I have multiple disabilities, and yet I try to do the arduous and impactful work that I do to serve my country. I'm a patriot at heart.
Phenomenal, indeed, a trailblazer. Thank you for having such, as always, a fantastic discussion. And of course, as I said, I'm going to bring you back soon so we can talk about the Germaine Barrett's inspiring story. I'm so grateful.
Thank you very much, Tamara, and thank you, viewers and listeners, for tuning in.